welcome to a special edition as we get prepared to do the Donnie Glover Show. Yes, the Donnie Glover Show, a show that's a worldwide and global show that will talk to you about issues, talk to you about things that are going on in your neighborhood, around your neighborhood, and in neighborhoods all over the world. Yes, we're in STEM City and we're a part of the metaverse. The metaverse is the next level. And if you don't know, now you know. I'm Dr. Eric Kelly III, and I'm a guest host this morning. And what we're going to be talking about is the Black Business Expo. An expo that's been going on since 1995. We can go all the way back to the Black Wall Streets of America and move to now the Black Business Expo and into the metaverse with the Black Business Olympics. And when you begin to talk about the Black Business Olympics, you have to talk about the kids. When you look at the age, the age in America today, which is about 25 to 27. When you look at the age in Africa, which is 15, and then all over Europe is about 22. And so if you're pushing your company to people that are 30, 40, and 50 years old, in 10 years, you will be extinct. So today, we're going to take it away with the guy that I call Mr. Yeah, he's the coffee man. He's ready to go. He's got a fresh brew in the back. Donnie Glover. Hey, Donnie, how you doing this morning?
Good. My name is Dr. Eric Kelly. The mission of the Expo is to raise scholarships for students to attend college. Recently, the Black Expo USA had a week-long pitch event for students to present their ideas and commitment to their education. We plan to give out 10 laptop computers, and we did, and scholarships, and we did, up to $10,000 depending on donations. The theme for Black Business Expo USA 2022 is economic inclusion. How'd I do, Dr. Kelly?
Oh, you did great. You know, you say we live. I did you, you did me, and let's get it on. And we want the people to know that, you know, this is going to be an ongoing idea. You know, our kids are getting something I call a narrative. And that narrative says to them when they get up out of the bed, as early as 3 and 4 years old, that they're taught that they can be athletes, that they can be singers and dancers and entertainers. And they're taught that crime is a part of their life. And that piece is the narrative that our kids get. What we want to do with the Black Business Olympics is we want to change that narrative and have our kids to look at something like entrepreneurship. The wealth gap is $171,000 versus $17,000. Now, if you think about that for a moment, if that $1.5 trillion that we have in the African American community was transformed into everybody becoming entrepreneurs in that space, then the wealth gap would disappear. You did a book on I Am Black Wall Street. And the I Am Black Wall Street is so prevalent when people think today about really Black America. When you see how Oklahoma was bombed, when you see how the highways went through Durham, North Carolina, when you see the fires out in Oakland, the common denominator was all of them were entrepreneurs.
Could you add in Dr. King's assassination?
And we'll definitely touch on that. Martin Luther King's assassination, remember when he was doing the I Have a Dream and the desegregation, which was desegregating our wealth. People won't talk about that, with desegregating our wealth. It was all right. When he did the bus boycott, and many of our young people don't even understand the bus boycott. We hear it, but nobody really talks about it. The bus boycott was for 18 months. Now, I want everybody to imagine right now, get out of your car and don't ride the bus. For 18 months, walk everywhere you wanted to go. I'm not talking about getting a ride. I'm not talking about getting in a car. I'm saying walking to your job, walking wherever you needed to go. You just got up earlier and you just walked. Okay. Now that stopped money from going from one place to another. And once that happened, it just seems like, I'm just saying seems, because I'm not going to say what anybody did, but it just seems like he left the planet. And what did he leave us with? He left us with a program that we begin to look at integration as a culture. And when you begin to look at integration as a culture, you got to understand one thing. Now you've given up what you've had. It was a time where families really worked together in their own household. When you look at other nationalities that come to America today, and they begin to live in one house together, and then they put some 10 or 15 people in one house. They pay for that house, and then they move to another house. And then they pay for that house, they move to that another house, and the next thing you know, they have a community. So this is something that Black people used to do. They used to live in a whole family in a lot of houses. And, many people say, well, Dr. Kelly, how can you say that? How can you say many people live in one house? Well, I can talk about my family. My family, the Stansel family. For some of you, you may know and you may heard of the Stansel family. Well, my great great grandmother had 20 kids. My great great grandfather came to the party, I called it a party, with 10 kids. That's 30 kids that lived in Hamlet, North Carolina, on a hill with houses on the hill, you know, and that's how Black people lived back in the day. Some people say, well, why did they have so many kids and they don't have many kids now? Well, in those days, when I say great great grandmother, you got to understand there was no 3 TV networks. There was maybe one radio network or 2 radio networks, and they were AM radios, not FM. Okay, so the distractions were not there. The Everything was about family, family this, family that, plow the land, plow the land, plow the land, and have kids to keep the legacy going. So as our world changed and as we got more and more involved in business and got more and more involved in what I call education, technology, and the like, we began to get more distractions. So the advent of the phonograph, let's go back to the phonograph. All of a sudden, now we can play music. And then the 3 channels. Okay, but that still didn't stop Black America because Black America still was in the house, in the home. And then the commercials started. And when the commercials started, they started just like race. Race. I didn't say racism because racism is the love of one's race. Bigotry is what changed America the beautiful because now you're watching TV and now you're seeing a world, and that world is pretty much the people that are in power. Not the people that are not in power, but the people that are in power. And with the transition of integration, now you're watching your life live on TV. And so, what do you think? The ice is colder on the other side. The books are better on the other side. And so you're pushing to get better. And once Black America began to go up the ladder of progress, we talking about the ladder of progress. Many people talk about a lot of great people. I always talk about George Washington Carver. The reason I talk
Why?
about George,
Why you like talking about George Washington Carver?
well, because George Washington was living in a time when reading was illegal. And he took a small peanut and made hundreds of products.
I got we got to do some clarification because right there is where we have to add in that although it was illegal to teach a slave how to read, not all Black people were slaves.
And you're absolutely right. But When I talk about reading, I am not talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, O, P. I am talking about those scientific booklets that was kept away from him. See, he didn't have a bunch of books that some doctors had, some scientists had. He had his mind. And his mind said, I can take this peanut and I can do something else with it. And then I can take that and do something else with it. And I can take that and do something else with it. But you are right. There were black people here way before Columbus.
And our history did not start with slavery.
Oh, so you want to take me down that street. And I'm just loving
we
that.
just want to clarify, because a lot of us still today think that black in America equals slavery, that white in America equals freedom. Not all blacks were slaves. Not all whites were free. As a matter of fact, my history tells me that a lot of those who came to this country from Europe were indeed criminals, escaping the justice system in England. Now, let me give you one other caveat. We speak English. We speak English because the British was the last major fight. The United States fought Britain in 1776 for the American Revolution. But everything we think about is English. One trip to New Orleans would reshape our thinking, because there you would see, in addition to the English, the influence of the French and the Spanish. Now, my history tells me the Spanish were on North American soil, including 2 black Spaniards, 2 black conquistadors I talk about in this book. They were down in Florida at least around 1500, 1520. And I say that because there's some black scholars pushing this 1619 project, but we had been coming to North America before that, at least 1500. And one other caveat, since we've gone
before you go there,
okay,
let's have our audience to do some homework, because you know it's easy for old folk to use oral history. You know, I call it old folk, but let's do just a little bit digging, it's a little bit deeper, because when you begin to look at the history of time, okay, and you understand that 7,000 years before the Greeks wrote their first letter, ancient Egyptians was writing on the tombs and inside of the pyramids. Okay, so when we start talking about this earth, and many people think the earth has always been the same way. Okay. You know, when we start talking about water and we start talking about this earth, we believe that it's always been the same way. But this earth has evolved.
You're talking about the ice caps.
Yeah, when you begin to talk about Africans, ancient Egyptians, because the Egyptians and the ancient Egyptians are not the same. Okay, so many people think that the Egyptians in Egypt are the same as the ancient Egyptians. They're not. Okay?
So you're saying Charlton Heston, at best, is a replica of a replica of a replica?
If, in fact, and I don't want to go down this street, he ever existed. Even if the story ever existed. So we gotta really unpack a lot of things when we begin to talk about our history. And
now you're gonna get me talking about the Trinity.
Well, our kids, yes, our kids. Let's not
original
go
Trinity.
Too much. Wait a minute now. That's a little too much this morning.
It's too much.
It's a little, because when we've
been lied to that much.
Yeah, when we begin to have these conversations, we have to kind of take our time for people to really see what happened. Because remember,
We know what
according to
happened.
history.
The,
According to
some
history,
strangers got hold to that book around 300 AD, and where Jesus used to look like you, now he don't look like you no more.
well, as I said before, our families were in houses all over America, and there was not three TVs. There was maybe two radio channels.
Come on,
There was
Dr. Kelly. Were there
there,
black people here before slavery?
without a doubt, because you said it eloquently. You know, what about the indentured servants? What about the white people who were criminals that were sent here? Because this is what people don't think about. You sent a bunch of criminals to America, right? Okay.
Just like
They're
Australia. Just like
Yep.
Australia.
Yep. What are they gonna do after a while? What is a crook gonna do after a while? A crook gonna want to have his way. And so the Revolutionary War was about, think about it, not the Boston Tea Party. It was about a group of people who said, we want to own this and not give you any taxes. We don't want to pay. We want to have our own. And we want the taxes. Nobody thinks about that part. Everybody thinks about, well, we don't want to pay y'all no taxes. But in reality, the crook said, you know what? We ain't paying y'all. We getting the money. And so the Revolutionary War was all about the starting of this place called America the Beautiful.
You know, I got to add this one story in there. In this book, I talk about Black Caesar. Black Caesar was a pirate, was a black pirate down in Florida. We don't realize that pirates actually did exist. But long story short, Black Caesar was down in Florida, and they caught him with about $6 million in silver.
Mm.
And no, he didn't want to pay taxes on it either.
But let's unpack the black pirate. Let's unpack white America. Let's unpack.
Right. Here's the first question about your expo. How is it that this expo, well, is the expo physically held around the country?
Well, you know, that's been a question that's been posed to me several times. And I always bring up Black Expo USA. Black Expo USA was an expo that did 14 cities across the country. And they went to 14 major cities. And in those 14 major cities, it allowed Black people an opportunity to carry their products and their services across the nation because many Black companies did not have a gigantic advertising budget. And so as they began to go across the country, they had what was called organizing committees. The organizing committees decided that they wanted to do their own expos on the backs of what Black Expo was doing. Unfortunately, Black Expo was doing anywhere from 800 to 1,000 booths in each marketplace. That's New York, DC, Richmond, Chicago, Indianapolis, Kansas City, in Oakland, LA, St. Louis, 14 cities. And so once these organizing committees decided they wanted to do their own expos, they couldn't do the numbers. So Black Expo USA went bankrupt because they didn't do business on one show. They did business on 14 shows. The reason I wanted to put that out there is to give some context to why there are Black businesses all over the country. And my Black Business Expo is called Black Business Expo USA. And the difference in what I believe that if people around the country are already doing Black Business Expos, then we don't need to have me to be the leader of all the Black Business Expos all over the world. And so instead of putting organizing committees all over the country and spreading across the country, what we do is we promote all the Black Business Expos all over the country so that we don't go bankrupt. Okay, because if we were to do what Black Expo USA did, the same thing would happen because you're gonna have competition. And instead of worrying about competition, I embrace competition. I believe that when you go to our website and you look at all the list of all the Black Business Expos all over the country, you as a business owner can sign up to all the other expos.
So this
share your
right
product.
there is where I get confused. these expos around the country, are they related to you?
No, 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 no,
So
no.
yours is a way of connecting all of them because otherwise they would not be interconnected. You would have
And
you'd have 15. You remember that movie Harlem Nights?
yes,
Arsenio Hall. They were at the shoot 'em up scene, and everybody else had machine guns. Then Arsenio go pop.
and he said, "Man,
Then he go.
get
Then he
away
go
with that
pop.
gun."
So he was
And
like single shooting by himself. He all by himself
and
with a
somebody
pop gun.
again, yeah, somebody has to do the work. One of the things that you'll find out in Black America is we all have our own stuff. We all have our own egos. We all have our own guarded information. Okay. But what happens when we guard the information, we have our own stuff, then we live in our own little boxes, and then it doesn't allow other people to expand into those
I know,
boxes.
Dr. Kelly, but we have good reason to be guarded. I mean, we built
Well,
Tulsa, a group of angry and jealous people come and bomb it and burn it to the ground. I've
yes,
heard all kinds of justifications
yes,
for how those
but
people in the Greenwood district are supposed to feel. But at the end of the day, and the same thing happened, you in North Carolina, you heard
mhm.
about that massacre down there. All of them black people got elected to office, and then one day they wake up and they get chased out of town. Can you imagine being the mayor and getting chased out of town?
But could you imagine?
Wilmington, that was the place.
Yeah, but could you imagine each one of these Black Wall Streets all over the world, all over the country, connected?
I
If all of
do,
them,
but I
if,
understand why those
yeah,
people would be working to keep them disconnected.
and we can talk about that part, but let's talk about this part. When
If
I
it,
say connected, if all of these Black Wall Streets were connected, then when Tulsa got bombed, then Durham would have came and rescued them. When Tulsa got bombed, okay, think about it for a moment. Tulsa got bombed, then the
how many
people in
black? What do
Oakland.
we make up? 20% of this country because they've been lying to us for years, saying we make up 13%. We make up what? 20%.
I truly believe that we don't trust this country in a way of giving the real numbers up. I just believe
Because
that,
they would be afraid that we realize we have more numbers and maybe George Floyd ought not be happening.
well, now we gotta kind of back up when we start talking about the George Floyds of the world and what happened to him. We are fortunate enough to have telephones. We're fortunate enough to be able to videotape things. We're fortunate enough for that to happen. But we don't know how many George Floyds happened on our watch, and we were not able to capture the video. Because when you look at economics and you start talking about Martin King, and I want to go back to Martin King just for a moment. If Martin, I hate using the word if, but I'm going to use it in this instance. If Martin Luther King stayed alive and he was able to do the bus boycott and stop transportation all over the world, and he lived to this day and age where he had the power to say, let's buy this product, or let's buy that product, or let's buy this product, then this world would be a different world. Many people play checkers, but other people play chess. So when you start talking about all of these Black Wall Streets and you talk about the Black Business Expo USA, one of the things I don't want to happen is I don't want everybody to sit around and say, this is my piece of the pie. This is my piece of the pie when you start talking about Black people. Because all of the pie that we have is our unique pie. And somebody has to stand up and say,
See,
enough is enough.
I hear you saying that, Dr. Kelly, and I hear some other black leaders say that. But when you look at matching up what they say with what they do, you end up seeing some disparity.
And
We talk a good game, kind of like some preachers. They talk a good game, but when you peel back the covers, you see the same old chicanery. You know,
well,
kind of like having a building fund for 57 years.
yes,
If you ain't built nothing in 57 years, you probably should stop doing the building fund.
well, see, this is the deal, Donnie. I'm glad you brought that up. We spend too much time. I believe this is me. This is not anybody else. We spend too much time worrying about the crafts. We spend too much time worrying about the star of the show. We spend too much time worrying about what other people do. There is a group of black people. There are a group of black people in this country. I remember when me and you met, and you said to me, you said, I was looking for you. Okay. And I said to you, I was looking for you. Okay. Now, we may we may be two guys who have the same kind of ideology, the same kind of ideas, and the same kind of spirit. Okay. It's 8 billion people on the planet. Okay. 8 billion. Okay. Now, I'm working to get 10,000 of those people to work together. That's all I'm working at. Okay. Because I understand that 10,000 represents 10 million. And 10 million represents what? 1 billion. So I am not looking at it from the lens of what the preacher is doing. I'm not looking at it from the lens of what an entertainer is doing. I'm not looking at it from the lens of what an athlete is doing. I'm looking at it from the lens of what changes the world and what an entrepreneur can do that will change the wealth gap. That's the that's where I have to live. I can't save everybody. I know earlier we talked about, you know, people pimping poverty. And we talked about how many people are pimping poverty. But at the end of the day, think about it for a moment. If you and I and our resource circle can move the needle to 10,000, and that 10,000 goes to 10 million, and that 10 million goes to 10 billion, then all the other stuff that's around us is still going to happen. Because there's what? 8 billion people on the planet with 8 billion ideas, 8 billion likes, 8 billion everything. That's why it's so important to be in STEM City. That's why it's so important for us to begin to look at the metaverse, not just to look at it, but to get ourselves involved in the metaverse. That's why it's so important for you to have this program that you're having, to have intellectual conversation about things that people don't think about every day. I am sure when folk woke up this morning, they didn't know they would get a history lesson, an economics lesson, and a science lesson all into one.
I need you to tell me about your grandmother.
Boy, I tell you, Lobella Stamps Kelly. You can't talk about Lobella Stamps Kelly without talking about Henry Stamps. You can't talk about Lobella Kelly without talking about Esther Stamps. These were, for me, the best part of my life because my great grandfather wanted me to be a lawyer. And he walked into my room one day and he brought these big books. And he said, every family needs a lawyer. And what's very interesting, even today, every family needs a lawyer. So he was forward thinking. And I told him I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an artist. And then a month later, he came into my bedroom and he said, look, either you're going to start being a lawyer or you're going to start being an artist. And I said, well, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to start today. And then my great grandfather, who was real slick, said, well, I got this big hallway out here in the house. You're gonna draw and paint and put your stuff on the walls. I didn't know what draw and paint meant, or I didn't understand, but I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer because every day after elementary school, we would go to the courthouse and we would sit in there, and that was his thing, to watch justice. And so I began to draw. He started my museum back in the day. Now, as I got older, my grandmother had ideas about working with people, and she was a what you call a negotiator. So when she was the black woman that worked at the plant, and she would negotiate a raise for the black folk, and she would convince the white folk to like it. And so I watched that for years. I watched that for years. She said she gave me an ink pen, and I like drawing with an ink pen today. She said she gave me an ink pen, and I drew the choir at 4 years old in church. That's when I started drawing. And so as we move to now and think about what happened and what transpired, I had the opportunity when I was in high school. I had three teachers: my English teacher, my history teacher, and my art teacher, to pull me into the student lounge. Excuse me, in the teachers lounge, and they said, "You're gonna draw for us." Mind you, I'm a senior. And my English teacher said you can't graduate without English. My history teacher said you can't graduate without history. And my art teacher sat there and smiled. And so I went on this whole deal of, I'm a competitor. So I said, well, am I going to get extra credit? And for the first time, somebody told me, we're not giving you extra credit for something that you already can do. It's a part of who you are. And so I drew all year. At night, I would go to school early in the morning, drop off pieces for my English teacher, my history teacher, and my art teacher. I would have to do 3 projects because she said what I would do is I would come to art class the last day of the project and wouldn't say anything to anybody. But the rest of the time, I'm laughing and joking, and I would do the best project in the school. So with that being said, I ended up winning a $500 check and a big plaque for the best artist in the state of North Carolina.
How did that make
And
you feel?
well, I was, first of all, people don't know this. I was really, really upset before I won the award because it was the last day of the school and they passed out all the awards to all the kids, and they went to the art department and they gave these little small trophies out to 3 artists who were my competition. And I was in the choir singing, and so I was sitting in the choir with my head in my lap crying because I was like, I can't believe I don't get anything. And then Miss Dow walks up and she said, well, you say the best for last. And the best artist in the state goes to Eric Kelly. And I jump up, I walk him to the stage. And when you ask me how.
First you had to stop crying and wipe them tears
Yes,
off your face
yes,
and get rid of
indeed.
that stinky face.
Look, my best friend in the choir, he was
They were
nudging me. He
laughing
said,
at
man,
you.
he said, you won, you won. I said, what? And then I got up. I had to do that. But when I got up there, you asked me how I felt. I felt like that working for something that you don't know you're working for, you can get something out of it. And so that's what my
Can you
life is.
say that again? I gotta unpack that.
Working for something that you're not looking to get something from, you can get something. In other words, right now, Donnie, you're doing a show, 9 o'clock every day. And you've been doing it for years. Okay. What happens at the 20th year? What happens at the 30th year of doing this show? Okay. You're working for something right now, and you're doing an excellent job. You're not looking for something, but at the end of the day, you're going to get something. Okay. Consistency breeds wealth. A lot of people don't understand consistency breeds wealth. My great grandfather used to say that the number one job in this world is thinking, not sales, not product development, not research development, but thinking. I had a conversation with my son last night, and he was giving me the awards me this and awards me that. And I said, look, son, sit down and outthink the process. Just sit down and outthink it. Stop sitting around complaining and crying and worry and outthink the process. That's why you have a mind. That's why you have a brain. And so as I got the award, then I started getting letters from people. And I'm a guy who do research. So I was researching artists, and I found that the top black artist in the country was right here in Durham, North Carolina, at North Carolina Central University. And so they didn't have an art scholarship program at all. So I took my portfolio to them and took the letters I had to them and said, y'all, I want to come here and I want a scholarship. They kept my portfolio for a week. At the end of the week, I get a letter that they had a scholarship for me. Now, I could have just went to another school. Now, I want to tell all my kids out here this, and this is no shade on North Carolina Central University, first of all, what I'm getting ready to say. But we as people need to look at numbers and stop looking at ourselves. I was looking at me, but I wasn't looking at the numbers. I could have went to UCLA on an art scholarship. What is the difference between me going to UCLA and me going to North Carolina Central University?
One, you get to travel halfway across, well, on the other side of the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay, what else?
Well, Central is HBCU, UCLA is not.
And what else do I get? The
You
most
will get
important.
you will get resources at UCLA that quite likely may not be in Durham, may not be at Central.
I get this right here. This is what I get by going to UCLA. I get numbers. I get the opportunity to take the genius that's inside of all of us and put it in a space where there are millions of people, millions of numbers, and I get an opportunity to expand on my genius. That has nothing to do with North Carolina Central University. I tell kids all the time, it's not what's in the university, it's what's in you. It's what's in you. I have to talk about that's what's in you because at the end of the day, you have to understand one thing. The numbers is what makes you wealthy. Look at Steve Jobs for a moment. Look at Steve Jobs. Look at Bill Gates, and look at Bezos. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has $300 billion. The African American community has only $200 billion. Why does one man have a $100 billion more than the whole entire African American group? Well,
Because
not
nobody
because
robbed because nobody robbed them.
well we can say that, but let's
No,
let's
I
be
can't say
realistic.
that. Let's play devil's advocate.
But
When you
before we
mention
go to
this kind
devil's
of
advocate,
money, let me get a shot in now.
okay.
When I look at South Africa and the diamonds that have been stolen out of the ground by companies that black people support, like De Beers. When I think of the so-called Rhodes Scholar, named after Cecil Rhodes, who was all about apartheid and taking the majority of the land and giving it to non-Africans from somewhere else and putting the Africans on 8% of the worst land in South Africa. When I look at Nigeria and the oil, or Venezuela and the oil, or even the Ukraine with the oil and the diamonds, it's always some greedy person that wants to eat for free. And then I think of Belgium in the Congo and the hands they cut off because black people didn't make enough, didn't manufacture enough rubber. Mm-hmm. I'm so tired of people who exploit other people. They aren't to be revered. They are to be taken to the pawn shop, take all that money and redistribute it to the people who need it. These people don't set my standard. Let me tell you something else. I'm on a roll this morning. Elon Musk, these people want to destroy planet Earth. And just like a dirty little boy who don't want to clean up his room, then they gonna go to the next house and dirty that up. At some point, we're gonna have to G-check these capitalists who exploit this earth. Look at the water. I was in Jordan, Dr. Kelly, looking at the Red Sea. These people have been there for thousands of years. And the water is clear. But I go down to the Baltimore Harbor, the old funky harbor. We ain't been here 200 years, and that water is as dirty as toilet water. How is it that we continually mess up, and now we talking about going to another planet? You can't even keep your room clean. That was a commercial back in the 70s for people that wanted to have sex, but they couldn't take care of no kid. That's this country. We're all in the middle of everything, but we can't even feed everybody in this country. We can't house everybody. Well, we can incarcerate everybody. That's what we're good at. As a matter of fact, this is the most incarcerating nation on earth. 5% of the world population, 25% of the inmates, and half of them look like me and you. So maybe we are more than 15% of the population.
Well, that was awesome. And for those who are sitting out, that's what we're doing this morning. We want people would say, well, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Glover, man, y'all bouncing from here, bouncing from there. But see, this is the difference between black people and everybody else. We think so fast and so rapidly on so many different subject matters until we can communicate and understand what's going on in each instance. Now, let me unpack what you just said. And to some people, it may sound like, a simple solution, but it is a simple solution. We must begin to take care of our home first. Okay, the Africans. Okay, we can talk about the Africans from the lens of what other people tell us the Africans are about. We can talk about the black people in Australia from the lens of what other people talk about. We can talk about the black people from Europe and London from the lens of what somebody else is talking about. We have to change this lens. We can't sit around when you talk about that water situation. There's a lady in New York, I believe she's in New York, who bought a water plant. Okay, this was the first time I ever knew or thought there was a such thing as a water plant. Okay, how many people, black people, the $1.2 trillion will invest in her water plant? Okay, that's our challenge, Donnie. Our challenge is to stop. We got to connect the dots before we can do anything. There are black people all over this world who are saying, I'm looking for Donnie Glover. There are black people that's looking for Eric Kelly. There are black people that are looking for minds like ours. But what happens is we spend our time fighting a war that's a narrative that's not going to change. That's why I say it's so simple. That's why the Black Business Olympics is so important. It's important because we're not fighting the war on poverty. We're not fighting the war on the LBGQ. We're not fighting the war on black men against black women. We're not fighting the war of the environment. We're fighting the war of connecting black people together as entrepreneurs to restore us with valuable money. That's why I was talking.
But the challenge is, Doc, kind of like Moses. They were out in the wilderness for 40 years. I now know why they were out there so long. Some people that are with us are not going with us. They are actually in the way.
But we cannot focus on those people.
Yeah, Doc, we
We
do
cannot.
because
Hold on.
they keep
Let me
holding
give it
us
to you.
up.
Yeah, no, but they're not holding us up. What's
Yeah,
holding us up?
they keep opening the back door and letting the wrong people in the house.
They first of all, they're not
No, I
holding us.
say we gonna have to throw them in the harbor, Doc.
We don't have to. Again, my great grandfather said that we don't own no people, and so we can't throw none of them away.
But I
But
own
let me.
this boat, and they ain't riding on this boat because they've been taxing us for too long. And because when they had a boat, they wouldn't let us get on it. They told us to kick rocks.
Well, I'm going to agree with you in terms of there are
Fool me
what I
once,
call.
shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
I'm going to agree with you that there are what I call distractions, but we have to focus on where we're going. We have to focus on the people that are going where we're going because all of the people that are distractions, they're going to fall off the boat
No,
because they're.
some of them got to get pushed.
However it happens, I'm gonna let you get away with that one. However it happens, we have to begin to focus on the people who are going where we're going.
Look,
When
Doc,
I talk,
when they built that Black Wall Street down there in Durham, when those black people, those black men and women, built that North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, the historic one, that was the anchor institution there in Durham, North Carolina, which is actually the oldest Black Wall Street of the three: Richmond, Tulsa, Durham. I'm sure they had some disagreements, but they were able to effectively come together and table whatever those grievances are. But we're dealing with the same type of enemy today. And you know what that enemy is? The same original ones: greed, selfishness, self-centered, somebody that know everything about everything. You know anybody like that? They know everything. They got an answer for everything, whether it's astrophysics or crocheting. They know it all. I'm just saying, Doc.
but
They had
but
challenges back then in Tulsa, but they were able to come together and overcome that.
that's the point that I want to push. Okay, why the Black Business Expo? Okay, why is it here? Why the Black Business Olympics? Why is it here? Why 7 days a week from 8 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, 12 hours of black people speaking on a platform 7 days a week, turning it into let me finish, turn it into a 24-hour event. Why? Because there are people who are on that plane. There are people who believe in that mission. There are people who see that vision of helping our students. It may not be everybody, the 8 billion people on the planet. It may just be 10,000 people on the planet who are saying, okay, we represent this group of people who want to change the world, that world. Okay, now all of those folk that want to do other things, that want to fight, want to kill, want to do steal, all the other things, they're always going to exist. But we got to focus and not worry about them because they're going to exist anyway. Okay, they're going to be bred and born when they see the first television commercial, when they hear the first radio advertising to hate black folk. That's just the way it is. But if we focus in on the distraction, then what we're doing right here, just right here, never happened. I'm not going to sit here and say that what we did this past week ran smooth. We had people that we didn't need to be on the platform.
Doc,
We had
let me
people.
give you your credit. You had 150 speakers 7 days in a row for 11, 12 hours a day. We salute you and give you a round of applause. The word on the street is you touch at least 250,000 people.
Well, this is the trick. we
Now I
touched
heard
about
350, but I'm a
no, we touched 250,000 people in 1 week. Okay, but because we run our event continuously, it's not a right now. You can go online right now to YouTube and put Black Business Olympics in YouTube right now. We're running. You can go to my Facebook. You can go to Facebook / Black Business Expo USA right now, and we're still running. You
So
can
help me
go
out. Is Black Business Olympics and Black Business Expo one and the same?
Black Business Olympics is sponsored by the Black Business Expo. The mothership is Black Business Expo USA. Black Business Olympics is our network into our youth.
Why is that
That
important to you? I mean, we got like 9 minutes, but you got to tell me about these young people. Why is this? Why? I mean, let me just keep it real. As soon as I go to your page, I see you, you G checking people at the door. What you gonna do for the kids? Am I reading that correctly?
yes,
Why are you G checking them for the kids out the break?
because at the end of the day, man, I spoke earlier about the age group in this country. And I said in Africa, the average age is 15. I said in Europe, the average age is 22, 23. I said in North America, the average age is 25 to 27. If we don't get a handle on our youth, we don't get it, they're going to be robots. They're going to follow the follower. Think about it for a moment. This phone right here is more powerful than the computer that our president had 10 years ago. Okay. Our students, we're not talking now. If I say the average age in Africa is 15 and now they're headed towards cell phones, okay, what about the 12 and 13-year-old child? What about the 10 and 11 and the 5 and 6-year-old child in America that has a phone right now? What about the technology? People always say that the kids now are smarter than when we were coming up.
The Bible
Okay,
says wiser but weaker.
how many telephone numbers do you know now? How many people can you call on the phone? Remember, in our time, we probably in our minds had over 100 telephone numbers, 100 addresses, and if somebody asked her what our cousin's number was, we could spit it out. Okay. Right now, even though our kids are much advanced in technology, but in brain power, they're not. And the problem is we are not dealing with the brain thrust. I had a kid on my show. I think she was 15 years old, and she was attending 2 colleges. Already graduated from high school and attending 2 colleges at 15 years old. Her father took 4 of his kids, and all 4 of those kids he home trained, and these kids are excelling out of this world. Okay, ask yourself this question, and it's the only question, and it's the why of why I do the show. Why are they excelling? They are excelling because somebody took the time and said, let's get them some resources. Let's take some time and let's train them to do something other than what the universe wants to do. That's why when I talk about STEM City and the metaverse, and I say the metaverse is important, but who's going to control the universe when all of our kids are in the metaverse?
You gonna answer that?
I can answer that. A guy by the name of Zuckerberg, who just took that 3 billion people that he got on Facebook and said, okay, I'm going to do Meta, and I'm going to get another 3 billion, ain't but 8 billion on the planet. I'm going to get another 3 billion in the metaverse, and I'm going to tell them what to think by advertising to them. how to think, and what to buy. We cannot allow
Well,
that
that's
to happen.
scary. That's scary because I don't trust how this person thinks.
And that's
I've
why
seen that person's thinking not be in correlation with my values as
and
a
that
human being at all.
and that is why I am saying to you
Why
that
Facebook lock up so many black people? I mean, Facebook lock up more black people than the American justice system. What is it about this that keeps getting locked up? I've never even heard of Facebook jail. MySpace ain't have a jail.
well,
These and other inquiring questions
we
must be posed.
when you invite me back, because
Hey,
it's
Doc, we
about
want you to have a show on this network, but we know you don't have the time.
well, I do have a team, and that's the difference between me and a lot of people. My vision of what I'm doing in my team, they work arm in arm.
Doc,
And
let me get a
so,
word in. I want to thank you. You know, it's rare, and I'm going back to what I said when I first met you. It's rare to meet a Dr. Eric Kelly. It's rare to meet another kindred spirit because, as Minister Glenn has commented, we do have a lot of distractions, a lot of things pulling us this way and that way. But you are reminded that if we go to where we are led versus where we are fed, if we stay obedient to the Spirit, if we listen to those things that our great grandmother's trying to tell us from beyond the grave, then we do have a chance because they wouldn't see us fail.
and what you're saying is so true because I want to leave people with this, and I want them to think about it today. When you woke up this morning, did you know you would hear this conversation? When you woke up this morning, did you know your name? Did you know who you were? If you don't know your name and you don't know who you are, then ask yourself this question: why? We've talked about a lot of things, and I really want to come back because I did want you asked me about my grandmother, and I didn't get to her because so many other things went down the pipe.
Well, you got to tell
But
them the story about what she told you to do. She gave you an assignment. You tried
yeah,
to ignore the assignment and go the other way, kind of like Oedipus.
well,
But the
she
more
did
you
give me,
avoided it, the more you came right back to it.
and that is the truth. We have 3 minutes. I'm gonna try to get it in 1 minute. She came once I got an art scholarship, went to college, graduated, didn't have any money. So I said, how I'm gonna get some money. This is what you need to think about. I said, okay, I'm gonna go and sell cars. Okay. I only sold cars because the racism in the business, in the art business I was in, I didn't like it. I was born to be a humanist, to think about human beings and think about human life in front of race. So anyway, I sold cars for 3 years. I did $150,000 for 3 years in a row. And then I opened up my advertising agency. She walks through the door. She says, I want you to do the Black Business Expo. I said, okay. I was uh, a um, a fundraiser for the Black Data Processing Organization. I took it to them. After 2 months of working on it, the president comes in and says he don't think we're gonna do it because it was not his idea. Okay, I go to my office. I'm upset because somebody said they're not gonna do something I don't work 2 months on. I decide that I'm gonna do it myself, and that's how the Black Business Expo started. Even though my grandmama brought it to me, and she said she saw the way that I changed because I got an art scholarship, she wanted to do the same thing. That's the short story of the Black Business Expo. And now here it
You didn't
is.
tell me that part. You said she pushed you to do the expo. So, in other words, she wanted you to multiply the gift.
That is what we're talking about today. You multiply. That's why when that Jeff Bezos story, even though we didn't finish it, the Bill Gates story and the Steve Jobs story, we didn't finish it. But this world, and you are, and every business owner and entrepreneur is about duplicating their products and services and their ideas and their thoughts. That's what it's about.
But
And
when
it's
you
to
talk
the
about these people traveling in space, they got to do it in a humanist way because these people are quite often, I don't know what value system they work from. Let me tell you my value system in 30 seconds. Don't lie, don't steal. If you see something that needs to be done, grown people just do it. But we live in a world, I think of that movie Avatar. It's all about colonizing somewhere else, exploiting somewhere else, having somebody else do the labor. This is not human. And so I do not revere these people because they have a lot of money. They have no soul. We're destroying Mother Earth. It's not even winter anymore. You're getting hurricanes in places that never had hurricanes. We are destroying Mother Earth. Remember that Indian commercial as a kid? The Indian saw the trash and the teardrop come down his eye. We're destroying Mother Earth.
Well, Donnie, I know we got to go,
All right.
but what I'm going to say to all of that is when you take a diamond, a piece of coal, and you put pressure on that coal, and you continue to put pressure on that coal, and it turns into a diamond. Okay. No other coal was involved. No other resource was involved. The only thing, the only thing that was involved was pressure. That's it. And what I'm saying to Black America, white America, green America, purple America, is that we need to put some pressure on us being entrepreneurs again and focus on that part of the pressure and not worry about all this other stuff, because once we get this part dealt with, then all the rest that we need to deal with, whether it's climate control, whether it's racism, whatever else that's involved, we can deal with that. But we can't deal with that if we're just dealing with all of it at once. Like I said, I'm only looking at 10,000 people that would represent 10 million and end up being 1 billion. That's all I can do while I'm here on the planet. Now,
We got to get off the network for the next show coming in. I want to make sure we have your contact information. How can people contact you? You want them to go to this website here, Black?
They can go to that website and get all my information, or they can email me at erickelly45@gmail.com.
Good deal. Dr. Kelly, thank you for taking the time out to join us this morning. Have a powerful morning. My name's Donnie Glover. Good morning, world.